The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Welcome back, everyone. It's another wonderful Tuesday evening. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I welcome you back to the Songwriter Show. I'm your host, Sarantos, a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are very important to me, and that's why I'm so thrilled to host this show every Tuesday night. I strongly believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio and has listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in America. The station is licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange with partnerships throughout the music industry, including, of course, iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's first guest is Josia Caleb. Josia has a life experience full of gangs, poverty, and violence. Josiah has always strived to be different, though. He found a strong desire in music that began with his first music lessons, playing the trombone in 4th grade. As he developed, he started winning awards and placing in citywide competitions, and this became second nature to him. As life happens, Josiah found himself mixed up in the hardcore streets of Dallas, Texas. Josiah was born January 14, 1990 in Plano, Texas, and he's here tonight to share his story with us. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, Josiah. How are you doing tonight? Josiah, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello?
How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being on our show tonight. You have a very fascinating story. So you're from Texas, I hear.
Yes, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I was born in Plano, Texas, and I was raised in Dallas. Okay.
And this life of poverty and violence must have been really tough growing up in that environment.
Yes, it was really tough. My father, he went to prison when I was 5, and we had to. We struggled. My mom couldn't really pay the bills, as being by herself and trying to raise 2 boys. So we ended up, being homeless. And we stayed at the Dallas Life Foundation. And so we finally got our own place, and it was in more of what they call an urban area. It was pretty rough. It was really rough.
Yeah, that sounds very trying. So I read a little bit about your musical journey. Tell me a little bit about, was that inspired by your family, by teachers, friends? What got you doing the trombone and some of the other musical things you started doing?
Well, that's a great question. My musical journey, it started when I was in the 4th grade. I saw my brother, he was in the band and he was playing trombone. So he used to come home and used to practice on his trombone. And, a lot of times when, you have an older brother, sometimes you'll take after your older brother. So I said,
Sure.
Hey, I want to play trombone. So when I got into the 4th grade, I got into band, and I started to play the trombone. And that's what started my journey as far as with playing that instrument.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What inspired you as you got older, like once you had high school? Was there something different that inspired you when you were in your teen years?
Well, yes, it did. I started playing the trombone in the 4th grade. I got into high school. In the 9th grade, I started being interested in wanting to be in choir. And that's I've always had a passion to rap and sing. And so when I got into choir, it started to really develop my skills more and more. And so as my skills started to develop more and more in singing, it just became just more and more of an interest in just the art of singing. And I was also still in the band. So just being developed in that area of music, and then actually having fun, because sometimes you can be in things and you can be good, but sometimes you may not enjoy it because it may not be your passion. Well, that was my passion, and it was really fun. Just being in the band, we used to travel a lot, go on different trips. And so in high school, that's when my passion started to develop more and more.
It's interesting. You talk about the choir. I was in the choir in 7th grade, and I subsequently left because, believe it or not, I joined the altar. So I was an altar boy 8th grade for a few years.
Oh, wow.
But I think the choir is one of those unsung things that musically you learn to harmonize. And I really wish I would have done it more than 1 year. I thought it was a tremendous benefit as a singer.
It really was. I think it's one of those things that you don't have to pay for an actual voice coach. And I just looked at it as 4 years of free voice coaching. But 9 times out of 10, they hire people who are skilled in that area. And so I took advantage of it as much as I could, and got some free voice lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about what musician inspires you. If you could be in a room with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would say if it was a vocalist, I would actually want to meet Elevation Worship. It's a Christian group called Elevation Worship.
Okay.
I would really want to meet them. I really fell in love with their music and just their worship period and their genre, and I would really like to meet them and just to kind of pick their heads and see, hey, what inspired you guys to write the music? Where do you go when you create such music like you create in the depth that you created in?
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your specific songwriting process. Do you collaborate with other people? Is it just you? Do you prefer lyrics, music, melody? Tell us a little bit about your process.
Well, my process in songwriting is most of the time I hear lyrics in my head. So when it comes to writing a song, it's more of making sure that the song has a meaning to it. And most of the time, when I get the song, I hear different tunes in my head, different rhythms. So before I really get the words, it's like this rhythm that I hear,
Mm-hmm.
And so once I hear the rhythm or I hear this key, the sound in my head, then I'll start to put words to it.
Okay. I think you're definitely, in the last, music comes in cycles, and definitely the last 5-6 years or so, rhythm is king. So eventually it's probably going to swing back to chords, but for now you're definitely doing what's hot. So it's good to hear that.
Yes, definitely. And like they say, everything, just circles back around. So, like you said, I know soon it's going to be, really, really heavy in chords, and so now, it's more lyrical and more rhythm now, even in, the hip hop genre, and, just being able to keep the listener intact to your music, because in a certain amount of time, the listener start to kind of be uninterested. And so I think now is the time where it's really, you want to capture the listener within at least, I'd say 5 to 20 seconds within the time your music starts.
Oh, for sure. And especially with streaming, it's only made it worse. People have a limited attention span, and they're bombarded with new songs daily, so you got to keep them hooked and interested.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about what you got going on now. Are you touring? What are you focusing on now in terms of your music career?
Okay, so as in terms of my music career right now, I'm focusing on pushing the single. I'm also getting ready to release an EP pretty soon, and that's going to be called I Heart Worship, the EP. And so I'm working on that. I'm getting ready to actually do a video to I Heart Worship, so I'll be doing that in the next few weeks. Also, within my journey as far as my music, I travel to encourage people about health. And that's one of the big things that is tied into my music. And so right now, I don't know if you read, but, my sister passed away. And she was one of the influential persons in my life that really pushed me when it came to my music. She passed away last year from issues from diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And I've connected with the National Diabetes Association. And right now we're trying to push that and get people aware of their health and how they can better change their diets and just the way they look at their health, and get people aware of type 2 diabetes. So that's what I'm pushing now. And it all ties into my music, because a lot of times when it comes to passion, you can't fulfill passion if you're not healthy. And so that's where I want to get to the people about a spiritual health, and not only a spiritual health, but a physical health. So that's another big thing that I have going on that coincides with my music.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. Until we feel crummy, then we don't realize what it's like when we're walking around healthy all the time. And it definitely, again, I'm sure it's tough dealing with what happened with your sister, but it's nice to see that you're putting that into a good outlet, working with the Diabetes Association.
Yes. And I think that, we all are overcomers through our testimony. So I try to look at life, my life, and even the struggles through my life as just a big testimony to be able to help people through. So I've, through my weight loss journey, I've lost 171 pounds so far.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yes. And so that's one of the testimonies that I use to be able to encourage people, because there's so many people that are dying from just issues that deal with the health, deal with the heart, and deal with, not being able to just enjoy their life and be happy because they're sick and in the hospital, And so it's such a big job to be able to let people know, hey, we want to encourage you to be healthy so you can enjoy your families, so you can enjoy your life, so you can be happy, and you won't have a big hospital bill, on you.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is even more prominent in the urban areas, and it's unfortunate, but again, that's a very worthy cause. What's the best career advice you've ever gotten?
It's funny you ask. I would say the best career advice is to, it was two things. One was to never be quick to speak, to always listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then another advice was to never be the brokest person in the room. So, and the president of the college I graduated from, his name was Michael Sorrell. And he told me that the first time I got to the college, never be the brokest person in the room. And so it got to me because I was like, okay, if I'm going to be around influential people, then that means I have to work a little bit harder not to be the brokest person in the room, And so that got with me because in the area of me trying to be influential, you need a flow of income, and so in order to give, you have to have first, and so that's my biggest thing, and that's what actually pushed me to say, okay, how can I use the gifts that I have to be able to make room? The Bible says that your gifts make room for you, and so that's the advice that I took on when it came to my career and what decisions that I needed to make to be effective.
I think you're onto something. That sounds like a really cool song line. I think that's a song you got to write. Yeah, and and talking a little bit about the religious stuff too. We just I'm Greek, so we just had our Easter a week after everybody else. And if you go on my Instagram, you'll see the Greek tradition when we cook the lamb on the spit. That'll be kind of fun. You should check that out. I always get comments whenever I post that every year. People are like, what is that? Is that a dog? I'm like, no, we're not barbecuing a dog on a spit, but it's always funny. So before I ask you a little bit about this song we're going to hear, what's your superpower? If you had a superpower, what do you think it would be?
I think my superpower would come from, with my faith, my strong faith. I believe my superpower is being able to activate the Holy Spirit. And that's what I think my superpower is, being able to activate the Holy Spirit. And within that gives me the ability to be able to write songs that I couldn't write on my own.
Yeah. So let's say in 10 minutes here we finish the interview, and you walk outside and you find a lottery ticket that wins you like $50 million. What would you do?
I always thought about that, and I said the first thing I would do is I would probably go get a hotel room, and I would sit in the hotel room for about a good 3 to 7 days, and I would just sit there and think about what I would do. I couldn't spend it first, because I think if I spend it, then I would be spending it on something that I probably don't need at the moment. So I would want to think clearly. I just take out everything and just, hey, let my job know, hey, whoever, hey, I'm going for a week to this hotel, and just really clear my mind and think, because that's a lot of money, and it could make a lot of change, when it comes to communities, whatever, in my life. And so I don't want to make a wrong decision, because money is very powerful. And when you haven't had that much money, you don't know how it could affect you negatively if you don't, take out time and process it the right way.
Yeah, I gotcha. So tell us a little bit, where can the listeners find information about you, and where can they purchase your music?
They can purchase my music on any major download website, from iTunes, Google Play if they have Android. They can go to Pandora, YouTube, any major music download site.
Okay. And do you have a website that you want to share with the audience?
Yes. My website is www.josiahcaleb.org. And they could also find me on social media at at Facebook at Josiah Caleb. That's JOSIAHCALEB. And Instagram, they can find me at Josiah_Caleb. And then also on Instagram, they could also follow my weight loss journey at Josiah_Fit to Live. And there's a link in my Fit to Live page. There's a link that goes straight to the National Diabetes Association website, and they could be able to donate money, and it goes straight towards the National Diabetes Association to help people that deal with diabetes.
That's wonderful. Now, tell us a little bit about this song we're going to play in about 2 minutes here.
Okay, so I Heart Worship is my new single. I just released it this year, March the 1st. I Heart Worship was honestly inspired because I wanted to relate to people that you can be able to worship your Creator no matter what color, no matter if you're male, female. We all should come together as one to be able to worship the Creator. And so that's what I wanted to relay from that song is I love to worship. So if you love to worship, I want you to worship with me. No matter who you are, no matter what culture you're from, we all can worship together.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight. I think our listeners will get a treat listening to your song, and I wish you nothing but success, okay?
Hey, thank you so much. Quick shout-out. I want to shout out to Team Now. Also shout out to Dr. K. She's a wonderful person. And just thank you for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. All right, we're going to hear his song right now.
You healed the sick. Why did you do it? You gave sight to the blind. Why did you do it? You gave your life. Why did you do it? You keep on loving me. Why did you do it? So teach me how to love. You give me direction. You show me that nothing is impossible. When darkness is around me, you provide the light. Glory to the Lamb who was slain for us. That's why I love to worship. 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 Come on, say who the Son sets free is free indeed. Who the Son sets free. That's why I love to worship. I wanna do well in your secret place, where your shadow covers me, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Don't take your presence away from me. So teach me how to love. You give me direction. You show me that nothing is impossible. When darkness is around me, you provide the light. Glory to the Lamb who was slain for us. That's why I love to worship. 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 Come on, say who the Son sets free is free indeed. Who the Son sets free. That's why I love to worship. That's why I love to worship. To worship. I love to worship. I like this part. Holy Spirit, fall on me. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. Come on, say Holy Spirit, fall on me. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. You say Holy Spirit, fall on me. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. Holy Spirit, fall on me. Who the Son sets free. Come on, that's why I love to worship. Woo. That's why I love to worship. That's why I love to worship. Yeah, that's why I love to worship. Last time, come on, say who the Son sets free is free indeed. Who the Son sets free. That's why I love to
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Well, that was a wonderful song, and I have a nice treat for you guys. The next guest is Eli Horton, who's from Cleveland, Ohio, and he started Overdose Records earlier this year, and he's been working with bands from Cleveland all the way to the Netherlands. So he's hoping to continue grow and be a top label for grindcore, power violence, hardcore, and punk. So welcome to the show, Eli. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So it's going to be interesting for our listeners having you on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, more than what I just read at the bio.
Yeah, so I do a lot of work with bands. You know, I book shows for all over the place, all kinds of punk bands, grind bands, and stuff like that. It's like really huge everywhere except for Ohio. So, you know, I do a lot of touring myself, you know, throughout the Midwest, like Boston, New York, and stuff. It's like huge in Japan and like Europe. So, you know, I bring some of those bands over here and, you know, just do big shows whenever I can. I use like my normal job money to, you know, pay for them to get them out here so they don't, you know, go broke flying to Cleveland. So, you know, but yeah, that's it, you know.
That's very cool that you, you know, we've talked on this show about pay to play and all these other scams out there. So it's good that you actually front the money to fly these bands here.
Yeah.
How did you pick that genre?
I started listening to that stuff when I was like, I don't know if you've listened to it or if you're familiar with it, but it's like really, especially like the grindcore, it's like really way over the top. And my stepdad, just when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13, had a CD in my mom's car, and it was a band. I can't say their name on here, but he left in the car, and I heard it, and I'd never heard like anything like it before. It was so ridiculous, and it just stuck with me all the way until now. You know, I'm 23 now, so.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what inspired you to start a label?
Well, I was in a couple bands, and, you know, obviously I'm real big into music. I enjoy music. And so I was in a couple bands, and they just weren't working out too well because I feel like I was a little over the top. And I toured with Guar for a little bit. And so I wanted to do something in music, but I just didn't really know what. And, you know, I spent so much time listening to bands and, you know, just, I guess, making connections with other bands. I just felt like it would only make sense really to just start my own thing. So, you know, that way I could still be a part of it and involved in it. And I don't play any music, so, you know.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your mission statement. What do you think makes you different if we have some bands that want to hook up with you? What would you pitch them? Why you?
There's no rules. You just do what you want, you know. I'm open for all kinds of bands. You do any kind of stage performance you want, any kind of, you know, wild over the top, you know, you can do it. You know, I toured with Guar. I saw those guys do crazy stuff. You know, I listened to Gigi Allen for years. I've seen him do all kinds of crazy stuff. Right now, we work with this guy. His name is his real name is Michael. I don't know if he wants me to say his whole name. I can't say his band name, but he does all kinds of wild stuff, and he bleeds on stage, and he's rolling around and poop and stuff. And he's a weird guy, but I mean, you know, that's his art, and that's what he wants to do. So, you know, I'll support it. You know, so that's it. You know, you do what you want. And with me, you know, within legal terms. You know, I don't want you going in there and, you know, getting yourself shut down or anything. But
yeah. What would you say is the biggest audience capacity that you've arranged? You know, how big of a show are we talking about? The biggest show you put on?
In downtown Chicago, there's this like little punk skateboard bar. We got 700 people in there for this band, Sex Prisoner. They're from Phoenix, and there's another band, MDFL from Cleveland, who, you know, I spent some time with. We packed it though. We had this band, Nordic Walking. They came from Germany. There was like, you know, 8 or 9 big bands in there, and we got 700, 800 people. It was a huge show. You know, we packed it in, and so that's probably the biggest one. But
and you typically, for a show like that, you prefer to have one band, 3, 4 bands? How do you put that together?
Usually, I mean, I try to shoot for like 4 bands, you know, at really any show. But again, with some of them being so far away, it's kind of hard to do that. So,
yeah,
you know, it just depends on the freedom of, like, you know, the schedule. A lot of the guys in Ohio, you know, if I'm just gonna do like some random show in Ohio, you know, I'll just find, you know, one of the bigger bands like Lunk or MDFL, and then I'll just find like, you know, local, you know, even like teenage kids, you know, who are just trying to like start a little, you know, do too into that. If they want to come play or whatever, you know, they can show up and come play, and it's, you know, no big deal. But we try to usually at least get 2 bigger bands, but at least try to put like 4 or 5 bands, you know, as a whole on there.
Yeah. Now, this genre, do the big three labels, do they have a presence there? Or do they kind of ignore it? What's your impression?
Well, there are the bigger labels. Well, this is a weird thing. So there is here in Cleveland, there is a bigger label for metal, but they're kind of like a post-hardcore. Like, it's not the same thing. But I went and I interviewed with them, and they were interested. Most times, there are people who are interested in it because there is like a fan base behind it. But they're not as, willing to let bands like kind of sound the way they want. Like, they kind of want to just clean it up a little bit. They don't want it to be so over the top and aggressive. So naturally, like, that drives bands away from signing with those labels because they want to make their own, style. And there is the big one, Earache Records. They're over in the UK, but they sign all kinds of bands. And they, they get all the big grind bands. So.
And how do you, does your label offer bands or artists representation? Do you guys do managers? Do you do marketing support? Like, what's the scope of what you guys offer them?
Well, I try to do it all. I mean, it's really just me and my friend Alex, who he lives down in Cincinnati, so we don't really live close to each other. But, I mean, I know at this point, I know so many people, now that I can usually get, any band onto, any show within, reasonable time and everything. And, I mean, do all that stuff. I mean, as far as, management goes, I mean, I'm not going to be able to, help some guy set up a full tour out there in Europe. You know what I mean? I do know a guy in Europe, so, I mean, I could probably get him out there, but I mean, I don't know the extent of the stay, but we help them do physical releases and shirts and that kind of stuff. We haven't really ventured into too much because we're still kind of DIY, so a lot of bands will just make their own shirts so they don't have to like split profits between us. When we release their like tapes or CDs or something, obviously we get some of that too. So a lot of bands will release their own shirts and stuff, and it's kind of just everyone helps each other. But I mean, when they do deal with us, we do get them on as many shows as we can, and we work with a couple, I don't want to say bigger labels, but they're bigger than us, and they make more money than us. So, they'll also help us out sometimes too, and, fund us if we need to do something really big, So a lot of bands like that, and, tend to gravitate towards us because of that.
Sure. Now, how do you figure out if one of the bands on your label, how do you figure out if a song they wrote is going to make the cut to a CD?
I mean, it's free, man. There's bands on there that have like 60-track EPs. I mean, we do as many as you want recorded. We'll throw it up there. I mean, there is no press with that for us. We're getting ready to release a 12 bands. It's 80 tracks, all compilation album between 12 bands. So, I mean, I don't really place a limit on that. So, I mean, if however much they want to record, I mean, go for it. I'm not going to stop them.
Okay. How do you recommend for some of the listeners, any suggestion how they can make connections in the industry?
I just go to shows. I mean, that's basically how I did it. I just went to shows. Anybody who, you can help. Those street teams, like, they sound really corny and stupid, and they are. They shouldn't call them street teams because that does sound dumb. But you will meet people just by, helping promote at clubs or, just even bands. You just ask bands, hey, can I help you guys promote whatever? And even, like, smaller labels. And, they'll help. I mean, if you just reach out to anyone and tell them you want to help, they'll help you, and then you'll just start meeting people, and then you can, at some point, just go on and do your own thing. But, I mean, it's really pretty simple, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you ever, you talked about helping, do you stick strictly within your genre, or if some pop artist or a country artist came up to you and said, hey, can you help me? Is that something you guys can help with, or?
I mean, I could certainly give it a shot. I mean, I'm going to say that because of the music that we deal with, it's so niche. I mean, I don't know what those people could do to help, like, a pop artist or a country artist. But, I mean, if they ask me, like, oh, could you help me in some way? I mean, I'd give it a try. I know a girl that I know in Columbus does a lot with us, but she also helps, like, rappers and stuff sometimes, too. So, I mean, I would certainly try, but, I mean, I would let them know. I don't know how far this is going to get you, but, I mean, I'd certainly try.
Yeah, okay. How about advice on touring? You got any advice for the listeners?
Yeah, I just eat off the dollar menu everywhere you go, and yeah, that's about. I mean, a lot of times we spend a good amount of time just partying constantly. Fans, people at shows will let you crash at their place, their house or Airbnbs or whatever, hotel rooms. People will usually just let you crash anywhere if you just ask them. So I just try not to spend a lot of money, on tour, but once you get to drinking, that goes down the toilet. So, but you still try.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key. I think people go overboard when they're touring with their expenses, and that tour gets cut short,
Oh yeah, it gets rough out there sometimes. Well, a lot of times I don't think you really pay attention to how much stuff costs, and you're just kind of like dooting around your own town because it's just like, oh, whatever, we'll buy this and then go home. But when you're like nowhere near your home and you got to pay to do this and pay to do this and you're paying to stay here, it gets a little tight.
Yeah. What's the coolest road trip you've ever been on?
I went to Pennsylvania for Skate Fest, and it's not very far from Ohio, but Skate Fest, it was 2 days, and it was really fun. This dude lives out in, like, Westchester somewhere, and he built, like, half pipes, and he's got his pool was a little empty, or I don't know if he built it or what, but people were skating around, and there was a ton of people there, too, a ton of bands. It was outside. They were grilling hot dogs and stuff like that. So that was a really fun time.
Okay. I last went to Ohio, I think, about 2 years ago, but my next trip to Ohio, what's the thing I got to hit?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, honestly, since LeBron has left, I don't know. It's a little dry. I mean, I know the Browns are doing okay. I would recommend going to a Browns game. I mean, there are some nice little bars. They got a Bar 32. It's like way at the top of it's on the 32nd level of some building. You can see outside. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. But, I mean, other than that, to be honest, Ohio is not a lot of bars. I mean, I guess you're a drinker. I mean, there's tons of nice bars to go to, but.
Okay. Tell me, what was the last gift you gave one of your bands?
I don't know. Gifts. I mean, I don't normally give a lot of gifts. Shirts. I know. I helped my friends in Wonk. We got them some shirts for their next tour, but I mean, I wouldn't really consider it a gift because I mean, they asked me if I could get them for them. They just didn't pay for them. So I mean, yeah, I would count it as a gift. I got them some shirts.
Okay. What would you say inspires you on a day-to-day basis?
Just, I don't know, my enjoyment of music, being around music, touring, partying. I love to party, so this is a fun thing to do when you really enjoy partying. So I enjoy that, and music. So yeah, just the music and partying.
Do you ever see yourself doing anything else, or is this kind of what you want to do when you're 60?
Yeah. I mean, this is what I want to do. I mean, like, I will more than likely cut down on the partying, but I mean, as far as like the music thing, yeah. I mean, I just enjoy it. Everybody told me I would like grow out of this kind of music, like as I got older, and I never did. I still like it. I don't know what, it's just a genre of music. I don't know why everyone thought you'd grow up and stop liking it, but yeah, I mean, this is it. This is what I would like to do. I would like to just eventually move away to do this full time, all the time, nothing but music, and not have to work like another job, but strictly this kind of stuff.
Yeah, where would you want to move away to?
I really like Boston. I like Chicago too. So one of those two places, the street tacos in both of those places are delicious, and that's really what attracts me to both of those places. We don't have that in Cleveland. There are no street taco guys. So the first time I went to Chicago, man, that was like the best thing. That they're out there all night. And they're whipping tacos up. It's like the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think for your style of music, I think Chicago has a lot more. I don't know that Boston has, but maybe I'm wrong, but just from what I know, I don't think Boston has as much of your genre as Chicago.
Yeah, well, Chicago, right now, they do have a big label there, Victory Records, that is one of the bigger hardcore labels that sign a lot of these bands. Boston has a lot of bands from the old school originated from up there. There's a guy who runs Painkiller Records. He's up there right now. I don't know, outside of them, though, and a lot of the older bands, I don't know really what else is going on up there. I do know Chicago is a hot spot, though, for that. So Chicago probably would be better, and it's not that far from Ohio. So
yeah. Us Midwestern people got to stick together, man.
Right, yeah. I mean? I still like Ohio, but it just gets boring sometimes. So
yeah. What's the funniest thing that's happened to one of your bands in the last year?
The funniest thing?
Yeah, something that you thought was hilarious that you can't believe happened.
Oh, boy. I mean, probably just through all of the ridiculous, partying, a lot of times just getting booted out of hotel rooms, thrown out of bars, people just trying to fight them all the time. The band, I spent a lot of my time with MDFL. They're huge trolls, and they really enjoy getting under people's skin. And it seems like anytime I go anywhere with them, any show, they're just getting constantly kicked out of somewhere. Somebody's always trying to fight them. So as far as a particular time, I don't know if I can really break it down to one moment, but really just any time being spent with them, it's usually hilarious because there's probably, some sort of situation breaking down with them just from being there, just because they're loud and annoying. So, it just breaks out like that.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten that you'll admit?
Oh, the weirdest thing I've ever eaten. I microwaved an egg once. I guess that's normal to some people. That was not normal to me at all. I thought it was weird. I hate eggs though, and I just microwaved one. And yeah, I mean you can eat it right after you microwave it. And I didn't know that was normal. It was very strange to me.
Did you open it? Did you put it on a plate? Was it cooked, boiled, or was it raw?
I dropped it in a like a little coffee cup, and I just microwaved it for a minute. So I mean it was I felt like it was a little bit cooked, but it was still pretty runny. That was gross, though. It was disgusting. I'll never do it again.
Yeah, I've never even thought to microwave an egg like that.
No, I guess you can. Apparently, it's a normal thing. I mean, everyone at that night was telling me that that's a normal. I'd never heard of that in my life.
Yeah. What's the record amount of time you've gone without a shower in your young years?
Oh boy, probably 3 weeks. 3
weeks. Wow.
3 weeks,
and your friends let you hang out with them?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, 3 weeks. After week one, you don't really smell that bad. I don't really do a whole I'm not moshing around any of these shows or anything, so I'm not really getting musty or anything. But yeah, by the third week it gets pretty. And I'm bald, so I got no hair on my head, so it's it was easy to contain that a lot. I was still brushing my teeth, so I don't know if that counts as cheating, but
yeah, that's interesting. All right. Tell us a little bit about your website. Where can listeners or bands that want to get a hold of you get a hold of you?
You can go to morennoiserecords.com. That's just a small blog that myself and my friend Vinod in Europe run. You can check out bands on there. You can go to overdoserecords.bandcamp.com. That's where we have all our bands up and signed on there. You can follow me on Twitter. My @name is Adolf Satan, Adolf with a P and an H. And yeah, that's it. Any of those 3 spots.
Okay. Now, which of your bands in the next year are we going to hear about? If you had to pick one band that's going to break the internet or go viral or, get into the mainstream news somehow, who would it be?
I think Glen Coco, just because they have a very traditional sound. They sound like a silent hardcore band too. They're not as extreme. As much as I love grindcore, some of the bands can be way over the top sometimes, you know what I mean? To a detriment of themselves. They'll always be big in their own niche, but I think one that could really just break out and be popular on all levels without really having to shoot themselves would be them. Glenn, X, Coco. I don't know if they prefer the X being pronounced or not. They're a little over the map on that pronunciation of the X. There's an X in the middle there, so I'd check them out. They're pretty good.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's I think the last question that all the listeners are going to have that I have to ask you, what's the most useless talent you have?
The most useless talent I have? Being able to chug an entire 40 ounces of beer. Definitely no real benefit to that, but I can do it, so, I keep it down.
Wow, that's interesting, man.
No, I learned that one on tour. It's a good party trick, but I usually puke it up in the next hour. It doesn't stay down very long, so.
Yeah. All right. I got to ask you one more question here because this is interesting. But you're running for president of the United States against Trump. What's your campaign song?
Oh man, what is my campaign song? Probably we'll stick with the beer theme. We'll go with the Steve Austin entrance. He did give Trump a stunner too, and I got a Steve Austin vest. The wrestler. So I'd play that on my way out. Crack some beers open for the fans.
Interesting. Okay. All right, man. I think this was a real pleasure. I think your genre is very underrated, probably not talked about. I think it was fascinating having a label head on the show, and hopefully our listeners enjoyed it. But I want to thank you for being on the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. All right. Have a wonderful night.
All right. You too, man. Thanks.
All right. Take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I hope you enjoyed that interview. 2 fascinating guests tonight. And before I leave you with my song, I just want to, of course, thank everyone for listening tonight. I love spending every Tuesday evening with you. To any listeners out there who may be artists, if you wish to be on the Songwriter Show, I invite you to please just email me, check out the website or any other social media channels, and shoot me a direct message or just an email. I hope your own unique story gets heard around the world, and we love having all sorts of unique stories on the Songwriter Show. My name is Sarantos. Please join us next time to hear other artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And I'm going to leave the show tonight with a song called Dreamer. For those of you that know me, there is absolutely no doubt that I am a dreamer. I always have my head in the clouds, and I'm always dreaming. And I hope your dream comes true, and I encourage you from the bottom of my heart to keep reaching for the stars and keep trying to go after your dream. Otherwise, not only does life get boring, but it gets hopeless. And hope is something that helps get us through every single day. I love you guys, and I thank you for listening. We're going to hear the song right now. Have a wonderful night.
The stars were lighting up, your touch was all I know. You say I'm a dreamer, how'd you figure that out? Was it the look in my eyes? Was it the passion in my heart? You say I'm a dreamer. Will always stay, I'll never break your heart. You say I'm a dreamer, how'd you figure that out? Was it the look in my eyes? Was it the passion in my heart? You say I'm a dreamer. Am I such a dreamer? Just because I need her. You say I'm a dreamer. I'm glad you figured that out. When you look into my eyes, you can see what I'm dreaming about. Sometimes I like to dream about that perfect life where you and I can be husband and wife. Where you and I can be in a private paradise. I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. Just a silly dreamer. I'm a dreamer.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.